I'm just going to stand here on this TED carpet and wait for you all to judge me. Go ahead. But it's only fair that I judge you right back, a tit for tat. That's how the world works. So I'm going to go ahead and divide this audience into 3 categories. The first category are the people who have already judged me. They're the ones who jump to conclusions. The second category are the people who are in the process of judging me. Good luck with that. And the third category are the people who will wait till the end of this talk to judge me. Very smart. I believe we have a judge sitting inside us all, waiting to announce the verdict of every person we see without listening to their cases. I also think that we won't know the reality of a person unless we take the first step to get to know them, or at the very least, have a conversation with them without judging them. I mean, isn't it fair? But we humans rarely do that. We humans have involuntarily labeled and tagged every nationality with one trait or another, even if we don't know anything about Hofstede's cultural dimensions. For example, Arabs are conservative. Their women are oppressed. We've heard that so many times, it's kind of getting old now, don't you think so? Or people in the Gulf region spend lavishly. They're so shallow. They're complete snobs. We've heard that, right? I'd like you all to take a moment and think back to a time when you were labeled by someone, either consciously or subconsciously. And did it ever touch a nerve? I bet it did. I realized this at a very young age, thanks to my neighbors. And you're all wondering, what do my neighbors have to do with it? Well, there's a story behind it. I'm a writer, I can't help it. A few years ago, when we were coming back home after visiting our family on a Eid day, as we reached home, we saw a woman in her late 40s ringing our doorbell. My brother, who was driving the car, got out of the car to talk to her. As we watched from the car, she handed him a bag of what seemed to be a weird-looking substance back then. Later, we found out that that woman was our European neighbor who had lived next door for years now, but we had never seen her. We never knew. She had given my brother a bag of newly caught fish and wished us all a happy Eid. It was a wonderful gesture, a beautiful gesture. But I remember asking myself 2 questions that day. Number 1, why did it take us so long to get to know our European neighbors? And number 2, why weren't we the ones to make the first move? I thought about it a lot, and I think it was stereotypes and labelings and generalizations that came in the way. So what did I do? I decided to fight stereotypes with my writing. I write because I think writing is the loudest and clearest of all arts. But my writing never really had a purpose until that year in junior high and that Eid. After that incident, I began writing a story and posted it on a site called Wattpad, targeting youth as my audience with the aim to eliminate stereotypes that people had about our culture. I created Mahra and voiced my concerns through her for people living 7 seas across. And that's where the fun began. In the first chapter of my story, I wrote about the daily routine of an independent Emirati woman. My readers, although very few, but were hooked. They would ask me questions like, so what's UAE? And another reader would reply by saying, I think it stands for United Arab Empire. Or, what's the shayla? Is it the hijab or the abaya? And this is my personal favorite. Is kandora a type of food? They'd ask me. They were curious, and I loved it. At least I had their attention now. So I went ahead and I wrote another chapter. In this chapter, I showed them the relationships that we share with our siblings, with our families. I let them dive into our society and our culture. And they loved it. They would tell me things like, take me to the UAE then, or Abu Dhabi's on my bucket list. Most of the incidents were influenced by my surroundings, the tiny little details and gestures that we do on a daily basis without realizing how precious they actually are. For example, if a character would enter his home and kiss his mother's forehead as a greeting, at that, the girls would bombard me with questions like, is this real? Do you guys do this on a daily basis? And I'd be like, yeah, why else would I fake it? But sometimes they would tell me things like, your men are overly protective. And I would show them all the right reasons they should be. Or they would say that, your women are not independent, they're not respected. And I would give them a glimpse of reality. And I say reality. I'm not saying perfection, I'm not saying fiction, I'm saying reality. Therefore, in the last few chapters of my story, I made one of my characters do something very loathsome. But I had full confidence in my readers that they're not going to judge the entire nation based on one character's wrongdoings, and they didn't. They showed me that through their comments. Gradually, the story received a huge fan following worldwide. 35 chapters into the story, I have 2.3 million views and 69,000 votes. But I'd like you all to note that I'm not here to promote myself as a writer, and I'm not here to promote my story, because I haven't given you my pen name, I haven't given you the title to my story. I'm here because I'd like to share my experience of changing mindsets, which is a very difficult job and a huge responsibility. But we have to start somewhere. After all, it's the incremental changes that lead to a greater radical change. And finally, all I can say is, I can't fight the battle of stereotypes on my own. Therefore, we all need to step up as one nation with tolerance and an open mind. We make sure that we don't live up to negative stereotypes. We cherish our culture because without it, we would be nothing. You know, it's funny that we're here today talking about change empowerment, but the only thing that I wouldn't want to change is our values, our beliefs that make us stand out in any crowd, and we shouldn't take them for granted. Thank you.